momentous occasion. I'm super excited for all of our guests that we have on here tonight. I'm gonna start with our first guest, who first time being on the show. Have them all introduce themselves to you guys, and then as you can see, we got a few returning guests. I'll allow them to introduce themselves so you guys can get reacquainted with them. So without further ado, I'm gonna start with ladies first. Miss Dr. Shakisha, what is going on with you? Let the people know a little bit about you.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Sakisha. Been married to my husband now for 28 years. I'm a 21 plus several years experience at being 21. I'm a retired pharmacist, but I've been blessed to work in the relationship space now for about 16, 17 years. And that's how I get to spend my quality time with my husband. We get to pretty much share our passion just for working with couples and being able to help them navigate some of the challenges that we really struggled with at the beginning of our marriage. So it's a blessing that we're here, we're together, we came out on the other side. Now we want to grab some more couples and then help them get through those challenges.
Yes, I love that. Yo, already know you're gonna be dropping gold nuggets on us tonight, and I'm looking forward to it. And I'm sure all of our guests and all of our listeners out there that are tuned in are gonna be enjoying it as well. Coming over to Vincent and Valerie, how are you guys doing tonight? Let the real
Good
lovers
evening.
know a little
Doing
bit about
well.
you
Doing
guys.
well, doing well. Hello, my name is Vincent
I'm Valerie
Woodard, and we are founders of Couples Pursuit, and we are a ministry of to help marriages thrive and be successful. We give them tools and strategies and tactics, and we have guests like you all on our show. So I would love to connect later on, and I'll just keep this thing going. Jay, this is great. This is awesome, man.
Yes.
I'm 49 years old. We've been married going on 22 years
Yeah.
in May, and we've been together for about 25
It'll be
years.
25 years.
Yes.
Mhm. Yeah, and in addition to sharing information with other couples about marriage, we share information. We share, studies, proven, theories or whatever. But we also share our business. We share our testimonies. We share our failures and successes, and we find that really helps others to understand how possible it is to overcome issues in marriage and relationships. Yeah.
Oh yeah, super excited to have you guys on the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. And coming over to my girl first, what's going on? So happy to have you on the show with us tonight.
Thank you so much for inviting me and for having me. It's an honor to be on with all of these knowledgeable panelists. I'm First Home Tuber. I'm a content creator here on YouTube. Per the name, my channel is all about helping people buy their first ever property, taking away the fears, dispelling the myths, giving good information on how to get a down payment, how to package yourself for a potential lender, how to look, how to hire and vet a realtor. Lots of information on my channel. And to kind of balance it out and do some fun stuff, I have reviewed the Ready to Love dating show on my channel, which is, I think, how Jay found me. And so discussing dating and relationship topics there. I am decidedly single. I am not married. I don't wish to become married and therefore do not date. So that is my spiel and happy to be a part of this discussion.
Yo, we are happy to have you on here. Thank you so much. First, glad to have you joining us on the show tonight. Coming over to my girl Nicole, right in the middle. What's going on with you? So happy to have you here.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicole with My Comfy Couch. I am single and 37, and I don't know if it's on purpose, but like my girl first. Uh, but I do have a podcast, a dating podcast, where we have a panel of both men and women, and we talk about real issues in the dating field. Okay, so if you're wondering what's going on with guys, what's going on with men, why can't we get along? We talking about real stuff. So check us out. IG is at Comfy Couch Talks. Hit me up if you're interested. And if any of the Comfy Couch crew is on this call, say hi in the chat. Okay, big them up. Show engagement in the chat. Okay.
Yes, yes. So glad to have you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us, Nicole. My lovely co-host, Tatiana. Thank you. Yo, Tatiana's only late because of me. Like, I forgot. I sent out invites to the show to everybody except Tatiana. See, that's what happens, Tatiana. I know you haven't been with us the last 2 weeks. I promise you. charge it to my what is it, my head and not my heart. I'm like, yo, hold on. Where I know Tatiana would have been here by now. I'm like, why isn't she here? Let me go check my email. She like, yo, Jay, where's the link? Like, oh man, it totally slipped my head. So glad to have you here, Tatiana. And you guys, I couldn't forget her. Now we got some returning guests joining us. Two amazing gentlemen, man. First and foremost, my man Jason. What's going on, bro?
Oh man, all good. So Jason Caston was on the show a couple weeks ago. Back again. I'm 44. Been married about 18 months. I was divorced and so got remarried. I was definitely one of those singles that said I would never do it again, but here we are. Let's see. I'm a author, speaker, computer geek, and CEO of Caston Digital. And for the lovely topic we talking about tonight, I did long distance dating and marriage for about probably about a year, maybe I think almost 2 years.
Oh yeah, and that's exactly why we got you on here because when you were on the show a couple weeks ago, you were sharing that experience with us, and I'm like, yo, I got this show coming up. We'd love to have you come back on, and you was like, yo, let's make it happen. So I'm glad to have you back on the show, Jason. And last but definitely not least, my man, Mr. CEO Status. What's going on, bro?
What's going on, Jay? Mr. CEO Status, as the name says, I can be followed on Instagram, TikTok. 42. My content mostly consists of uplifting and motivational content to help individuals. And above all, even if I'm not helping anybody else, sometimes when I'm feeling down, I can go back to my own content and motivate myself. So, as long as I reach one, mission accomplished.
Nah, that's real. Glad to have you back on here, bro. Yo, my man CEO was like, yo, Jay, I know I was on here last week. I want to come back, man. I got some stories to tell when it comes to this long distance thing. And after the story you told last week, I was like, yo, let's make it happen. Let's bring this man back on. But before I come to my lovely co-host, Tatiana, let me really quickly give some shout outs to those joining us in the chat. So huge shout out to JD Clay. So glad to have you joining us tonight. Shout out to my girl, Tiffany. So glad to have you in the building with us tonight as well. Want to say thank you for joining us, my girl Tanisha, and none other than my man, Black Belt. The Dojo of Manhood is back in the building, man. So glad that you are here with us as well. And Tatiana, how have you been? It's been 2 weeks. Glad to see you back on the show with us.
Yes, thank you for having me back, Jay. No worries about the stream link. I was like, okay, did I miss something? Did I miss the email? But it's all good. Happy to be here. I see some familiar faces in here. So welcome, guys. Thank you for joining us on this great panel on this great topic tonight.
Oh, yeah. And without further ado, we're going to get right into it. So let's start with our first question of the night. Why do some people tend to struggle with navigating long distance relationships? I want to come up to you, Dr. Sakisha. Why do you think it's a struggle for some people?
I mean, in order for a long distance relationship to be successful, you got to be intentional about it. Like for the first 3 years of our marriage, my husband and I lived in totally two different cities. He lived here in Orlando and I was in school in Tallahassee. So every weekend I was hitting the road, but it required me to be intentional. I knew I had to manage my time because I wanted to be able to see my boo on Friday. We knew when we got mad at one another, we had to squash it really quickly. So for me, that was like the best thing because it forced us to grow up. We realized we don't have much time together. So some of this stuff, look, that ticked me off. Don't do it again. Now let's go to the movies and have fun. Let's go do this and that. But it's all about your mindset. Do you want the relationship to work? And are you really willing to put in the work in order for that to happen?
Most definitely, most definitely. And before we come over to Vincent and Valerie, want to give a huge shout out to some new people in the chat. What's going on? Let the ladies speak. And my girl Nicole, you already got some people showing you some love. Alex is in the building. She says thanks for the invite, or he. Either way, we showing love both ways. Appreciate you for joining us. And Tiffany says she missed you, Tatiana, and glad to see you back. So yes. Coming over you, Vincent and Valerie, what's y'all take? Why do some people tend to struggle with long distance relationships?
Wow.
Well, I think it's a great, what Dr. Shakisha said. It's intentional. And plus, you don't really talk about what all goes into it. You don't really discuss, okay, we're going to do this long distance relationship. And then you start asking questions along the way. And you're like, well, we should discuss this. Like, are we actually a couple or not a couple? Are we, in a relationship? Are we exclusive. It's a lot of things that go into play that you might not have discussed before you say, hey, yeah, we will date long distance.
Yeah, sometimes people make assumptions. One person may make the assumption that they're in a relationship. I'm 51. And when I was dating years ago, my thing was either we're dating or we're not dating. There was no such thing for me as, what do they call it? A monogamous relationship. If it's me and you, it's just me and you. Mm-hmm. So I don't expect you to be dating other people. And if that's the thing, then first you have to establish that that's what we're going to do. We're going to date one another. Then I think the issue, to answer your question, is that we want instant gratification. And so when you're dating someone, and you've got all that, emotion and all that serotonin and oxytocin going on, you want to be close to each other, you want to spend time with one another, and you're not able to do that all the time. Mm-hmm. And so some people may struggle with that, not being face to face, not being able to see each other every week, not being able to have that instant gratification, mm-hmm. And so I think that might be an issue. Well, it's definitely an issue to overcome. You have to figure out how you're going to manage it. Yeah.
Great point. Very great point. Coming over to you first. Why do you think some people tend to struggle with navigating these long distance relationships?
Well, they're challenging, right? And, so not as easy as another kind of relationship. And for me, it was, about not having the immediate support of your partner, which is the best part about relationships, in my opinion. When I was in a long distance relationship, it sucked because it just felt like living single, but also not open and available to other possibilities. And so for me, that was the biggest struggle, is not being able to get a hug at the end of the day, not being able to say, hey, can you, pick this up for me or help me with this? So I think a lot of the, the benefits of partnership you miss out on when if you're in a long distance situation.
Yeah, you're right about that. It's a total different vibe when you're long distance versus being close. And I know everybody isn't a subscriber to it, but for those who are subscribers to love languages, right? If it's personal, if it's quality time, if it's what is it? Person like touch, like you in for a very long haul if you're doing the long distance thing. So that's a really great point. First, coming over to you, Nicole, why do you think some people tend to struggle with navigating long distance relationships?
I think trust is a big issue, especially at first when you're trying to build. So it's like, okay, if he didn't answer my phone call, why didn't he answer? If he says something and then, lies come out, like trust is all you have for the most part until you get to the point where you're seeing each other often. So I feel that the hardest thing is trust. And maybe we'll touch on this later, which I hope we do, but from how males perceive long distance relationship versus women, there may be a big difference there. So my thing would be trust. How do you build trust throughout?
Oh yeah, trust is huge. I mean, that's already a proponent in any relationship. And then when you add it to a long distance relationship, I feel like it intensifies how serious you have to take that component of the relationship for sure. Now, we actually had a comment come in from my man Black Belt. He's known for his infamous comments. He says, I think money is an issue for some people. And the other issue is that it's not easy for both people to make the next step and combine worlds when at a distance versus in the same city. So coming over to you, CEO, as a man, how much of a role does money play when it comes to the struggle of navigating a long distance relationship?
It plays a big role because it's a sacrifice. Especially if a man is established in whatever city he's in, career wise, and he might be with a company to where, they're pre-pandemic and they're not able to work remote. And so he has to factor in whether or not he wants to start someplace brand new, look for a job, look for a place, network, things of that nature. And if he doesn't have the funds to move, like he might have met this young lady and he just put a down payment on a house, or he just signed a new lease or something of that nature. So financially, yeah, it plays a major responsibility because he also has to factor in the cost of living where she lives might be a lot more than where he currently lives, and has to make that adjustment as well.
Great point. And coming to you, Jason, because this is actually something that you had kind of touched on the last time we were discussing this, is what's your take on the whole financial piece of this navigating long distance relationships?
Yeah, that's a big deal. I mean, as guys, with some of the social stigmas we have as being providers, we're supposed to be financially stable. Kind of the things that you're right. I was touching on before about long distance relationships. I was basically flying back and forth from Dallas to Chicago while we were dating, there for a week and back in Dallas for a week, and then also basically flued out my girlfriend at the time, was trying to be my wife, every time. Like, she didn't pay for tickets. So I had the opportunity, as well as with the CEO saying about job. I had a job where I could work from anywhere. So those type of things where if I'm there for a week, I'm in Chicago for a week, visiting her and spending time and establishing the consistency of that you need for a relationship, I had the resources to do that. Without that, we would not have had enough time to establish any type of foundation, because another thing that we needed was, and I think this was touched on before, communication. We needed effective communication, which is hard when you're in someone's face. But we had to learn communication skills and then add distance into it and conflict resolution, because we're still two different people. So all those things we had to learn from a distance, and we stayed on the phone a lot. We had to make up a lot to talk about stuff that we don't nearly talk for 8 hours a day now, and we're in the same house married. But that's what we had to do to keep that connection and that consistency and that communication.
Nah, that's good. That's good, man. I really appreciate you for sharing that. And I always appreciate your transparency and your willingness to kind of open up and give us those examples from your own experience, your own marriage. So thank you for that, Jason. And Tatiana, what's your take? Why do you feel like some people tend to struggle with navigating long distance relationships?
I think a number of people touched on it already in our panel, but I'll add that some people underestimate like the extra effort needed to make it work. For example, what if you are dating someone who lives in another country? You could factor in the citizenship or dual citizenship if you all plan to marry or something like that. That's an extra step that you have to go through. Timing, like trying to make sure that your plans, your schedules are in alignment. That takes extra effort. Keeping to those schedules, having reassuring communication that you guys are exclusive, especially if that's what you both agreed upon, and the willingness to travel. Like Dojo said, is like that money factor comes into play. Like, okay, now we got to book hotels, we got to book, flights or whatever transportation. It comes with a price tag doing LDRs. So.
Nah, that's good. That's good. So, show of hands, everybody on the panel. Have you all been in long distance relationships? Show of hands if you have. Okay, so Nicole, you're the only one who has it. Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So we got she like kind of like that one time it might have been. Yo, we'll get to that in a minute. I feel like there's a story there, Nicole. So since everybody's been in a long distance relationship, I would love to know what your experiences have been like. You can either give us like a bad experience, like kind of give us the good and the bad. Like what were some of the highlights and what were some of those? Maybe this. I can't believe I survived it, but I'm glad I did. I got the war wounds and everything. So coming up to you, Dr. Sakisha, what were some of the good and the bad of navigating your personal long distance relationship?
The good part was that it put us in the predicament where if we really wanted to maximize our time together, we had to learn, like you said, communication, learning how conflict resolution real quick. Because we wanted to, you had Friday, you had Saturday, you had Sunday, then it's back on the road. So we couldn't waste a lot of time. But then, we also didn't have the things like they have now, like FaceTime. We didn't have all of that when we were dating. So look, we had to plan. I'm being there Friday, Saturday, we going out to dinner. We spent more time, hey, talking to each other. What do you want to do? How are we going to enjoy this weekend? So we were focused more on each other. The bad part about it, I'll agree with what she said, is that sometimes you do want that hug at the end of the day. Sometimes if you having a rough day, you just want to be with them. Now, of course, you have technology now, you can FaceTime, but for those of us that crave that physical touch, it's challenging. It's like, for for me, I love those words of affirmation. So you just have to say it. But for my husband, he's like a physical touch type person. So he needs that touch. So that was really, really hard. So that caused friction, you know? Yeah.
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 And going back to it again, those love languages, right? And
Yeah.
you helped me out. It was physical touch. That's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, if a person is physical touch or even quality time, like that can be a very tough situation to navigate. And I appreciate you for opening up and sharing that about your experience, Dr. Sakisha.
Oh, I
Thank you
like
for that.
one quick thing about Dr. Sakisha. She keeps mentioning this, and I think this is like super key because we've all been there. When you're doing long distance and you have an attitude, something frustrates you. She was like, "Look, I'll be frustrated for an hour on Friday because we only got Saturday and Sunday." But that lesson was so. My wife taught me that. Like, I had my moments where I wanted to be frustrated, and we had some times where we went at it on Saturday, and I knew I was leaving on Sunday. Now you had to get over that quickly, and that was something that I had to learn as well because I will hold on to some stuff. Now I may not do the whole thing that women do, where they'll let you know and they poker face is horrible. I'll still be holding on to it, but I at least act like I'm not. But she would be like, no, she said her thing. She always says is we're gonna get that residue off us, and we're gonna keep moving forward, and that's key. So as soon as you said that, Dr. Keisha, I was like, man, that right there was a lesson that I learned the hard way as we had to figure that out. You got an hour, maybe half a day to hold the attitude, and you got to let that go.
Oh yeah, so you already knew it. I already told y'all, Dr. Sakisha and Jason, y'all already dropping golden nuggets, and I'm sure more is to come from everybody on the panel. Coming over to you, Valerie and Vincent, what's been your experience? What were some of the good, some of the bad when it came to long distance relationships?
Well, to me, it was a good outcome because I got my good thing. She was forced into a relationship, a long distance relationship. She didn't plan on. She was in town. We live in Wilson, North Carolina. She came down here and she was working, and then she was on her way back home to Virginia because things didn't work out here in Wilson. On the way out, she was having a yard sale. I got her. I saw her. I saw something I liked. I said, "Hey, I want to take you out." She's like, "No, I'm getting ready to leave. I'm out of here." And I said, "Well, where you going, Virginia?" "Well, I want a relationship. I want to get to know you." And so I just stalked her in Virginia. I went back and forth. We did that for almost 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And so the good thing was I got my good thing. The bad thing I would say, kind of what touched on some of the topics where everybody was saying, is when you have a disagreement, and Jason, I'm the type of person that I would rather not engage in trying to get over the conversation, like trying to work something out. Mm-hmm. I'm the kind of person that I would just hold on to it and take it home with me. And so now I got to sit in that, whatever what I'm mad about, what I'm angry about, and then I leave her stuff like we could have worked that out here, but he chose to shut down and be quiet. So now we spend a time apart, mm-hmm. and we upset with each other. What kind of relationship are we?
Yes, yeah, that was interesting because like you said, it was long distance, and it was like a year back and forth, and but some of the good things were our situation, kind of like Jason. Vincent he had a schedule where he would be off several days at a time, right? So when he was off, he could come, and he might be off 2 days, either 3 days or 4 days at a time.
Oh, I was coming, yeah.
So every time he was off, he was hitting the road to come and visit, and we would make arrangements. But getting into an argument or having a disagreement was just a bummer, because it was just like it just would rain on your entire parade, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the things that was really good about that long distance relationship is that we wrote letters. We still have letters that we wrote each other back then. This is aging us, but I have a cassette that he sent me. I still have it. Kind of his introduction, his plea to wanting to, continue to make it a long distance relationship. Also, the difficult thing for us was the holidays, because we had both been married before, and we both had a child each. And so his son here with his ex, and then my daughter, and my family and her father, having that proximity during the holidays, we couldn't spend time together. But what made that a good thing is that if we couldn't spend Christmas together, we would have our Christmas on New Year's. And so we had to learn how to adjust, so we found new ways to do the things we couldn't do that traditional dating normally would allow.
And those words, those 5 love languages, we actually had to talk about that on our show. There were words of affirmation, quality time, physical touch, acts of service. That was kind of my thing in receiving gifts. So in case anybody else wanted to know what we're talking about, it's 5 love languages. Just some people show love in so many different ways, and some people don't know what they're doing. It's like your acts of service, you saying you love me, but I want you to say the word of affirmation, which is I love you.
Tell me. Touch me and tell me you love me. Yeah. And that's hard when it's long distance. Yeah.
I love that. I love that. Really quickly, want to give some shout outs again. Tiffany saying, speak, Brother Vincent. He knew what he wanted. That's right. That kind of reminds me of what you were sharing as well when you were on here, Jason. You know, like, yo, when a man know what he want, like, he go after it. We're going to get to that when we come to you, man. JD Clay says, get the residue off us. Keep it moving. That's real talk. And my girl Cherie is in the building. What's going on, Cherie? So glad you could join us tonight. And Tiffany also says, I love that letter writing period. I'm seriously dating myself too. Yeah, that's real. That's real. So first, tell us a little bit about your experience, good or bad. How's it been for you when it comes to long distance relationship?
Well, the good thing is it was a really good person. I had found a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful person, which is why I even considered long distance. And I hated I hated it. It's so tough. And the thing is, I believe everyone goes into it saying, and our distance was Chicago, Detroit. And so people say, oh, that's, it's 400 miles. But it's not as easy as, as once you're in it, right? So once I was in it, I was like, oh my goodness, this sucks so much not being near my partner. So that was tough. I would say the 2 things that were tough that I didn't expect were how I believe her name is Tatianah, the beautiful lady, your co-host, was saying, you can match your schedules, but when you're scheduling something out, you're not sure what your mood will be, right? And so, everything is amplified, and sometimes things are rushed. And if you can carve out 2 days when you're both available, you might be wiped out. You might not want to, get all pretty and, for your guys. So that can be another thing. And then I forgot the other thing I was going to say. Oh, what's great about it, though, is you do enjoy your special moments, I think, a little bit more than the average relationship when you're in the same city. So you tend to cherish that time. It has more meaning when you're together and when you're doing things as in partnership. So that is the good part, I would say.
Nah, that's good. And I really appreciate your honesty and your transparency. And that's the beauty of a panel, right? Is when we have people with different experiences, like, yo, I'm not with that. Other people like, yo, we was able to make it work. I love that. So thank you so much for sharing your experience with us first. And Nicole, I know you had a story. Like, what's the story behind the long distance? Like, I want to know.
Let me tell you what happens when long distance goes wrong, okay? Y'all had so many beautiful stories. So y'all giving people hope. I love that. I was talking to someone, kind of dating someone long distance for a little bit, maybe about 6 months. I would have never done long distance, okay? I only did this because this was a friend I knew, and the person, I got to know this person through a friend. And the friend vouched for them, says, I know this guy for a couple of years, he's a good dude. I'm like, yeah, he's a good dude. So I'm like, okay, I wasn't really looking at the time. I'm like, you never know. Hey, just give him my number. So she gave him my number, we spoke, and we hit it off right away. Like, we had great conversations. So the one thing I do want to say that was good is that it kind of accelerated the process of getting to know him, because all we had was conversation. So we'd stay on the phone for hours every night. So I felt like I knew him a lot longer than I actually did because we had all this conversation. So that was something that was interesting. But so let me tell you what happened. So what happened was, one time I put up a post, right? Social media is getting people in trouble, y'all, okay? So I put up a post, and then so someone tagged him, the same girl that connected us tagged him, and this girl writes under his post, like with one of those faces, like a shock face. So I'm like, who is this girl writing underneath your post? And he says, oh, that's just somebody who can't get over the past. And he had her delete the message. So I'm like, okay, he handled it, right? Red flag number one. So y'all out there, pay attention to this story, okay? Because I'm going to give y'all the red flags. So that was red flag number one. So again, we would talk like every night for hours. So I noticed that some nights he wouldn't like, pick up or call at the time he was supposed to. And he'd have this excuse like, oh, my cousin just came out of surgery. My mom was on the phone and da da da. So after a couple times of that, I'm like, okay, let me go check this same girl who wrote the post. Let me go on her IG and check out. So I'm on her IG looking, and what do I find on there? Pictures of her with his dog, like that he just got. I'm like, wait, hold up now. I'm like, okay, so now I send the guy screenshots. You know how we do, ladies. Like we screenshot it, like screenshot, back-to-back message. So of course he didn't answer because, he didn't know what to say. So eventually I'm like, look, you better answer this call or else I'm never talking to you again. So he answers. He answers the call and he's like, check this out. He's like, oh, you know what? My roommate is her nephew. And we're just living together. And in a couple months, I'll be out of here. We'll break the lease and, the lease will be over. I'll be done. I'm going to move and she won't be over here all the time. So again, red flags. Okay. Red flags. So eventually, the time came when the lease was supposed to be up and I'm like, okay, so you moving out, we handling this or what? You know what? The roommate might be staying for a couple more months, trying to figure things out with his mom. So I'm gonna let him stay just a couple months, right? So I'm like, okay, all right. So I go over there now. This is where the story gets worse. So I go over there and I'm like, okay. So, we got the hotel and everything. And what happens when he's away from his phone? So I hear it vibrate. Now, this is another sign, ladies. If the guy never has the phone ringing and always has it face down, that's another red flag. So this time you see, I'm like, okay, but God, right? So you're like, I've never heard this guy phone ring when I'm around him. But for some reason, this time it's vibrating. So I go and I turn it over and lo and behold, who is it? The girl, the ex, right? So I'm like, okay, now he supposedly says, she's just someone for the past and all that. So I confront him about it. I'm like, what's really going on with this girl? Tell me the truth. He's like, I saved her phone number because she gave me a ride the other day. I didn't want to tell you because you were so upset. I'm like, really? Well, call her now so we could confirm what y'all real status is. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to solve anything. I'm like, well, show me the text between the two of y'all. He picks up his phone and deletes the text, all of them. He's like, oh, I just deleted them. I said, oh, really? So you better tell me right now, call her right now, or I'm going to go ask her myself. So ladies, don't do any of this, okay? This is craziness. When y'all get the red flags, just leave. But I went there, okay? So I knew his address. So I drove down there, got to the house, knock on the door. Who was there? The house was empty. The girl wasn't there. So long story short, the next day, now after he deletes all of these messages, he wants to show me the phone, right? He wants to show me the phone to show that there was no messages with the girl. So when he's showing me what I do, call it, ring, ring, ring. The girl answers and she's like, why would you want to be or talk to a guy who's living with his ex? And we sleep on the same bed and everything. I'm like, what? So you guys live together? So I'm just trying to tell y'all, listen to all these red flags, okay? The whole long distance thing. Hey, if you can't go to his house or see where he's living at, red flag. If any ex pop up anywhere, red flag. I mean, there was just so many red flags throughout this whole thing. So I just wanted everyone to be aware when things like this happen. And I also wanted us to discuss, because a lot of things, and the men some of them that I know and what I've seen, is that men don't take long distance as serious as women do oftentimes. So it's like me thinking here, like, I'm trying to make this thing work. And it's my understanding that many men feel like, okay, we're not that close. The ones I've known have been cheating or doing other things because they're not that close. So that's all I have to say.
See, I knew it was a story, but I had no idea it was gonna hit like that. Oh my God. Like, yo, last week with CEO and like this week, Nicole, like, yo, your ability to tell stories, like the two of y'all, like I got the two storytellers right next to each other, and I didn't even plan that. I mean, perfect. So let me come down here to Jason, because we have a lovely special guest joining us. Stephanie, what is going on?
Hey, how you doing?
So glad to have you joining us. Yo, what did you and Jason think about Nicole's story? That was interesting, right?
She pulled up. Like Nicole pulled up. She just
She did. Yeah, she definitely pulled up.
wow. What do you think?
You get way too many chances. I'm there's no way I would have went through all that, but I guess you had to, make sure that you knew what you knew. But me, I'd have been like, nah, I can't.
Yo, that's real. That's real. Yo, so the two of you, what were some of the good, some of the bad when it came to your personal experience with long distance relationships?
What was the good?
We got married.
We did get married. You're right. We did get married.
So some of the bad some of the bad was like one of us who wasn't here when the show started had a meltdown in the airport because she was tired of going back and forth often. So every Sunday I was on a flight.
No, it wasn't that. It was because they stopped me every time, like I was about to blow the airport up or something.
Okay, so stuff like that, like stuff that you don't expect. So one of us is patient and one of us is not. That little meme y'all seen about the guy who marries the chick who has to say, look, y'all didn't get my mashed potatoes, so she go off in the restaurant and stuff like that. Like, I'm more patient and she makes sure we get all our food. So when every Sunday I was on a flight back and forth for like October to, I want to say May. Mm-hmm. Every week I was going back and forth, and she would come in town usually every other Friday to Sunday to come visit me as well. And I would fly back with her. So, and I had clear TSA pre-check, all that before she had it. So of course her airport experience wasn't as seamless as mine. So stuff like that, when you don't have patience and they stopping you every time. Yeah, that was some of the things where she just wouldn't like that. And then, she's working all week. So now you work all week, then you got to jump on a plane. You got to go see your husband. And then as soon as you get comfortable there, on Saturday, you're trying to rest. On Sunday, we back at it, back on the plane, and so on and so forth. So it was very taxing for to continually have to do that all the time for months and months and months until I finally moved to Chicago. I think another thing that was it was something we had to learn was we also had a blended family. So I have two daughters that are in Dallas and now finishing high school. And she has two kids here that are in middle school. So I would spend a week with them here in Chicago. And when she came down, she only got like a couple of days to spend with my girls. And so the blended family process was something that we learned on the fly. We had never done it before. So that was another thing that was a part of our journey. So stuff like that. But, we did all this during the pandemic. I forgot to talk about that. So since we did all this during the pandemic, I would leave Texas where there was no pandemic. That's where we did date night because you could go out because they didn't care about it. I come to Chicago where the whole state was shut down. So everything shut down. So it's like if we wanted to go out and do anything, we would have to wait till we went to Dallas to go out and do anything and enjoy each other. But when we were in Chicago, we were in the house all week. So it was just like two different experiences, as we got married in November of 2020. And then the wedding was right in the middle of a pandemic. And I'm sure some people got COVID because of that.
But the good part about it was before we got married, the communication, like we were on the phone all the time, it was a good way for us to learn each other. And that was something, like I told him he had become a part of my day. Like we were talking from the time we woke up during the work day, at night. So I think that really, really was a good thing about it. Another good thing is the space that you have. You see them for a week, and then you don't see them for 4 days, so you get your space in the bed. That was good too, because you get a little break. But yeah.
Yeah, absence does make the heart grow fonder for somebody who sleeps diagonal in the bed. Because why would you want to give your spouse any space in the bed? But
I don't think there was anything bad.
No, outside of
nothing bad.
Outside of the airport,
we wanted the lucky ones.
We were lucky.
Yeah.
Shout out to TSA. Like trying to bring that challenge.
She good. She good. She a frequent flyer. She got frequent flyer miles, and now she an old vet. But I'm just letting y'all know what happened in that airport when she was like, she got mad. And of course, my initial response, because before I put the residue off me, doctor, I was like, well, if you don't want to come, then don't come. See, bad answer. She wasn't mad at me. It was me and her versus the issue. But right then and there, I immediately was like, well, if you don't want to come see me because you don't want to go through the airport, and that could have went left. But, we shook it off.
Nah, that's real. That's real. Before I come over to my man CEO, just want to quickly go to the chat. Tiffany says, that is such a great long distance dating event. I'm so happy for you both. And then we got Alex says, one good thing I can say about long distance is that you can really get to know someone through simply conversing. Listening to each other is crucial. It definitely is. Thank you for sharing that, Alex. And CEO, coming up to you, man. What's your experience been like, for better or for worse, when it comes to navigating long distance relationships?
Well, for better, I guess it would be the communication up to a certain point. For the worse would be finding out that there were intricate parts that a person left out when you decide to go and visit them. Things such as they may not be the cleanest person in the world, or that they can't cook, or that their hair isn't real, or that their teeth isn't real. Just stuff that I've heard, not necessarily experienced. So things of that nature. Or, finding out that you're not really compatible with somebody, but then also realizing that your plane ticket is not for another 2 weeks, so you kind of stuck. So those are my experiences.
Yo, I'm not mad at you. Yo, you kept it short and sweet this time. Yo, I mean, last week, yeah, I'm sure we get to it though. Tatianah, man, coming over to you. What's been your experiences, for better or for worse, with long distance relationships?
I'm still laughing at Mr. CEO's story about the house guest from last week. That was
Yes,
so
right? Yeah, the house guest. For those who were here last week, y'all know what we're talking about. It was a little house guest there.
I definitely have done the long distance relationships before. Like in my 20s, I was willing to try it out, because with that particular person, I was definitely like in love with them. So I was willing to go through the trenches with that one. Then I got older and I was like, you know what? I want to be closer to the person. So I went back and forth with the idea of entertaining it. I relocated from Chicago to Florida. I'm in South Florida now. And I always said that this wasn't going to be my forever home in this state. So I was always open to like seeing what other options were out there. And so I'm entertaining a friendship now that I'm building, like an intentional friendship that I could see become something more serious. So that's long distance. And what I'm learning is that it's definitely true what Jason said, what Miss First said about distance making the heart grow fonder. I'm definitely seeing that. And another thing is, because I'm new here, I'm still exploring Florida. Like when I really started to get into going out, that's when everything shut down for a little bit due to the pandemic. So now that my friend gets to come join me, we get to go on new adventures. I get to show him around to places I've always wanted to go to, but maybe my friends or my family may not want to visit. So because we have things in common. So that's a good thing. And I get to see some of his world when I get to visit him. And it's really a true test of patience too. Also seeing the benefits of it, because we're both pro abstinence before marriage. So we want to keep that distance because it gets real, like I could definitely see in other shorter distance relationships where that temptation was real. So I mean, in both situations, it can be real, right? But having that extra distance between y'all can keep y'all from doing things you're not supposed to be doing or not want to do at that time. And we both like to travel too. So it kind of opens up our options now that we're grown. We can just go wherever, right? We just pick a destination if we want to go there and make the plans happen. And overall, just building on our friendship. Like you all said earlier, just like building up that communication, that friendship, that is a really strong foundation for a long-term relationship or marriage. So yeah, I'm enjoying it so far.
Nah, that's good. We appreciate you for sharing your experiences. Everybody that's tuning in the chat, if you guys have good or not so good stories when it comes to your experiences with long distance relationships, drop them in there. Let us know. We would love to hear them and read them on the screen. But I know for the next 15 minutes, we got Dr. Sakisha, Vincent, and Valerie in first before you guys have to leave. So I want to get to our last question. And what I would ask you guys to do is after you provide your answer, just kind of let everybody know where they can contact you guys, where they can get in touch with you, and, kind of sign off before you leave us shortly. So here's the question I would love to send over to Dr. Sakisha. What are some signs that a long distance relationship may not work out for a couple?
I mean, honestly, when I think, like the young lady was talking about the red flags, when you start to see that the challenges are starting to outweigh, or overshadow the good in the relationship, even like for us having to learn that you could not connect on that level, meaning like say my husband was a physical touch person, I was like acts of service, but we had to learn to speak each other's love language in order to make sure that each person is feeling loved in the way that they know how to. If that person is unwilling to communicate with you in that way, that can be a huge issue. If trust, if you feel like you can't trust them, trust is a huge factor in a relationship. Communication is even greater. So if those are the areas in which you're trying and you're still not getting any results, who you are at the beginning of the relationship may not be who you are 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So you got to keep doing that check-in. And sometimes you're growing and you may wind up growing in different directions. So that's something that you got to keep having those conversations and realize long distance. Is this something that we're realistically going to be able to overcome? And, that's when you have to make that hard decision, like your co-host said, they're both pro abstinence before marriage. Somebody else might say, okay, I'll give you a little bit of time, but after that, their perception might be different. That's going to be a huge issue. There are certain things that are going to be deal breakers in the relationship. So those are going to definitely be some of the things you might want to think about.
Nah, that's good. And definitely let them know how they can get in contact with you, those who've been watching and want to know more.
Oh yes, you could definitely connect with me and my husband on all platforms. We're under Marriage Can Win on IG, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. We're under Marriage Can Win, or at info@millionairepowercouple.tv. That's our TV show that we just recently launched in December. So
Oh man, congratulations. That's amazing.
thank
Yo,
you.
yes. And I got the
Thank you.
link for your website in the description for anybody who wants
Mhm.
to open up a new tab and go check it out. And
Okay.
I'll drop those other links to your social media that you mentioned as well after the replay launches. But Dr. Sakisha, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It's been a pleasure having you on the show with us. Thank you.
Thank you guys so much for
Yes,
having me. And I
of
want to stay
course, of
connected with
course.
all of you guys. You're amazing. So definitely hit us up. We'd love to have you guys on the show as well.
Oh yeah, definitely. We definitely got to make that happen. Thank you so much. And coming over to you, Vincent and Valerie, what's your guys' take? What would you say are some signs that a long distance relationship may not work? And in the process, after you answer the question, definitely let us know how we can get in contact with you and show you some love.
Well, I think for one thing, we have to make sure we do check-ins with one another. And I would call it the 3 Ps, and that would be perspective, priorities, and passion, right? So if we don't have the same perspective of the relationship. For instance, let's say Nicole was talking about her unfortunate catastrophe with this young man, right? And how men don't see long distance dating the same way that women do. I think that can be true in some cases, but I also think sometimes we don't get a clear reading of what the relationship is between the man and the woman. Mm-hmm. Because a guy and sometimes a girl can be comfortable with casual interactions, right? And so for him, it might be okay. You know, you can be my girl when you're in town, or I can be your guy when I'm in town. And some people are okay with that. But if we never have the conversation, that communication, that clarity about what is this that we're doing? How are we going to manage this? Is it going to go anywhere else? Right? And so that would be the perspective part, the priorities. If you find that person is no longer, they're not answering your phone calls, or you don't really care if you talk to them during the day, special moments like your birthdays or holidays, or you know, you get your Valentine's Day gift the day after Valentine's Day. You know,
like a mistress,
right? If you kind of start feeling like the side
chick,
right? I hate to say chick, right? I hate to say chick because women are not baby chickens, right? But if you're not the woman on the side, you kind of feel like, well, where is the priority in the relationship? And I'll say passion also. If you don't feel a passion, I don't necessarily mean sexual passion. I mean, just a desire. Like if I'm not the person that drives you when something happens, if I'm not the first person you want to talk to, right? If I find out on Facebook or some other platform something major that's happened in your life and you haven't communicated it to me, as Dr. Sakisha said earlier, you know, sometimes you just want to be with that person or touch that person. My husband is personal touch, physical touch. Person as well. And if something happens with me, I want to tell him, I want to share with him. We touch, we hug, we kiss every single day, right? Like we like each other and want to be in each other's company. And even when we were long distance, that showed in the phone bill, because back then it was a phone bill, y'all, right? My dad was like, you guys are ridiculous spending all that money.
Falling asleep on the phone.
But yeah, falling asleep on the phone. But that was passion. You know, if you have no passion for the relationship, if you have, your priorities are different, and if your perspective of the relationship is different, it's probably not going to work. And you can tell them where to reach us.
Oh, well, definitely check us out on our website, couplespursuit.com. I know the link is in the description. And our Facebook group is Couples Pursuit Facebook group. You just type that in, and I'm pretty sure it gets you close to who we are. And I'm Vincent Woodard. My wife is Valerie Woodard, and we have our own independent social channels. You can reach us out there, but definitely hook up with us. I would love to get all of y'all on our show. We do a Facebook Live every Tuesday and Thursday. Then we do a Bible study on Wednesday night. So we just love talking to people and helping people get better at being themselves and also being in a relationship.
Yeah.
Yo, it's been such an honor having you both on, Vincent and Valerie. Thank you guys so much for all of the golden nuggets that you guys have shared along with Dr. Sakisha. And I made sure that I put a link for Dr. Sakisha and you guys as well. So those links are in the chat now. And coming over to my girl first, what's going on? Before you leave, definitely let us know, what are some signs that a long distance relationship may not work out? And then definitely let them know how they can get in contact and show you some love.
Some signs that it may not work out is if you begin to feel that all that you are investing might not be worth it. And so I think long distance relationships require much more time investment. People have talked about financial investment. It's a higher level of commitment. Again, can be less rewarding, at least for, a short period. So, sometimes there are red flags as far as the other person's action and behaviors, but also listen to yourself. It might not be worth it, but only you can know that. So that's kind of what I would say.
And definitely appreciate that. And let them know how they can get in contact with you before you leave us this evening.
Sure. It's been an honor being on the panel with all of these beautiful, amazing, intelligent, insightful folks, and yourself and your co-host as well. I can be found on all social media platforms under First Home Tuber. Just spell it out. It's exactly like it sounds. My On a Spot live program is coming up. It's free. It's here on platform on YouTube. I'm not selling you anything. I'm just helping people get ready to purchase their first ever property. I always say home buying is not hard. You can do it, and my channel is there to help. So I look forward to helping as many people as possible.
Oh yeah, and you have somebody in the chat showing you some love. Confession of a Reality Queen says hello, all people. Yes. So we appreciate you guys so much for joining us. I want to say thank you again, Dr. Sakisha, Vincent, Valerie, and First Home Tuber. So glad you guys could join us on the show. You guys have open invitations if you ever want to come back. I definitely will be staying connected with you all. If you need anything from me, just feel free to reach out. But thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight. And we definitely appreciate you guys for having come on. So thank you so much.
Thank you
I
all.
want to say hello, Tatiana. I talked to you. We was going back and forth. I was trying to get her to be a guest on our show, and she was telling me that she does a YouTube channel, and she'll talk to her co-host about having me on the show. I'm like,
Yeah.
Jay? Jay? He said, yeah, Jay, man, I'm going to be on the show Tuesday. Are you going to be there? So, hello. It's great to see you.
Nice to meet you
Yo, it's
all.
such a small world.
We're definitely
Oh,
okay.
yes. Love it. Thank you
That's
all.
amazing. See, connections. That's what it's all about. Yo, I
That's what
love
it's
it.
all
I
about.
love it.
Yeah, perfect timing with that.
All right, y'all. So second half of the show is getting started. We just heating up, you guys. Coming over to my girl, Nicole. What's your take? What would you say are some signs that a long distance relationship is not going to work out?
Wow, y'all could just replay when y'all watching this. Just
Right.
replay what I said, and that'll help y'all out. Um, the biggest thing I want to say is, based on what these couples said and what I've seen, is both parties making the effort to kind of see each other. I noticed that when someone isn't doing right and it's not working, there's always one party always making the effort to make the trips. One party always, trying to get each other connected. So it looks like, based on what this panel is saying and what I've seen, is if both people are intentional, they're gonna make it work. Even if they broke, okay, they're gonna be like, okay, let's go on these virtual. Let me get on this Zoom. Let me FaceTime you. Like, there is no, I think, in my opinion, there is no limit, no boundary if someone really wants to be with you. So I think when you see both parties really going in to make it work, to see each other and communicate and spend time, that's what you got to look for.
Most definitely. Most definitely. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that, Nicole. Coming over to you, CEO. What would you say are some signs that the long distance relationship may not work?
Neither party is willing to sacrifice for the other one. Communication comes to a halt, like to the point where you start off being on the phone all day and all night, and then now you don't even talk because you figure you have nothing to talk about, or it goes from being on the phone to just texting, or the person is all of a sudden always busy, things of that nature, or you get into an argument and you have the first thought that you have is, you know what, I don't have to put up with this. I don't have to deal with this. I'm dealing with somebody that lives X amount of miles or states or hours away. I can go through this with somebody local and I don't have to deal with all of this. Once you start entertaining those thoughts and trust starts to creep out the window, then that might be an indicator that, you know what, this particular long distance relationship with you and said person may not be the best.
Yo, once again, y'all hidden, man. Y'all hidden tonight. Coming over to you, Jason and Stephanie. What would you guys say are some signs that it may not work out for a couple?
I think same thing CEO was saying, especially with the communication. When you start to see the conversations become more forced. So instead of talking to the person because you're happy about, what you want to share, you just checking a box. All right, I need to talk to you today because that's been the routine. So now once it becomes routine, it's just like, if sex becomes routine, it's like, oh, okay, we're just doing it because we're together, as opposed to being a little more spicy and engaging. But also, if you don't feel that reciprocity of energy on whatever level you're giving it out. So one of the things that I liked and that made me want to marry this woman here is she was matching my energy on a lot of levels. And most specifically was I know for her birthday, when I was trying to fly out there and see her, and I didn't think anything of it, but my plane got turned around because of the weather. Went back to I was coming from Dallas to Chicago. We got to Chicago about 20 minutes out, and we got turned around and had to go back to Oklahoma City and eventually back to Dallas. So that was Friday. So then they immediately put us on another flight to come back Saturday to come and so of course spent her birthday with her, and I had to go back Sunday, for to work for the week. But from then, I say probably about February on, she kept asking me, "What are you doing for your birthday? What are you doing for your birthday? What are you doing for your birthday?" And she made sure my birthday was a priority. And of course, when my birthday came around in June, she was on a plane to come see me and make sure I had a great birthday, had plans set up. And, even did a little funny, YouTube video with me, Instagram video with me, all this stuff. But she don't really dance, but we danced for my birthday and all that type of stuff. So just that type of energy, even matching my humor and stupidity, that's how you get a ring.
Wait, but you didn't tell me. Did you say you didn't stress the fact that it was two? He got on 2 planes to come for my birthday. Okay.
Oh wow.
That's effort.
Right.
But it wasn't to me, it wasn't I didn't feel like it was anything special. It was just I had a plan, I had a goal of coming for her birthday, and so that was fine. I wasn't thinking, now when my birthday come around, you better jump on 6 planes to get it. Like, it wasn't that. But there was, I didn't have any expectation for my birthday, but she started months ahead, kept asking me what you were going to do for your birthday, and she made sure she was going to be there and no one else was going to be there. So that when you get that reciprocity on all kinds of levels, then you know that things are going the way you want it to go, especially when you call someone and they're like, "Oh, I was just thinking about you. I was just thinking about you. That's why I called." That type of connection is great. But when it's dying. When you're forcing it. When you like, we only stand together because of the time we've had. So, and stuff like that. And, as CEO was saying, if I got to deal with nonsense, I'm definitely not dealing with it with somebody who's 1,000 miles away.
Nah, that's real. That is real right there. Anything you want to add, Stephanie?
No, I think we all, everybody hit all the points. So, yeah.
Yes. Tatiana, what's your take? You've had experiences that were both good and, not so good. So what would you say are some of those signs that, hey, this thing may not work out?
Definitely from that first experience doing that, like in my 20s, like it may not work out if you don't have a plan in place, right? Like if there's no idea, or you don't have to have everything perfectly planned out a year ahead, right? But at least have something that you can both be comfortable with. Like, this is what we're going to do. We're going to talk, in every quarter, whatever, we're going to do a trip together, or I'm going to come see you every month, or you're going to come see me, and, have something in order. But if that's not the case, you're just going off the emotions that you're building in your relationship, and it just gets your hopes up, and it leads to disappointment, especially when they don't follow through on the plans. I've been there. That's one of the worst feelings, because not only are you missing them because y'all are physically distant, but the plan didn't follow through and you were looking forward to it. That is the worst. I hate that. So just think about it. Like, if there's no plan, the expectations and the accountability can get cloudy, because again, if y'all, like in any relationship, even if you are in the same city, if you all don't talk about expectations for your relationship, then okay, who's going to hold who accountable? Because there were no expectations, being set. And, of course, we're talking about realistic relationship expectations, because there should be some discussed, like, what do you want your relationship to look like? What are the ground rules? Like, what are the boundaries, etc. So if that's not communicated, especially in a long distance relationship, it may not work out. Also, if you are heavily influenced by the opinions of other people, like if you have one of those friends they just love to be in your relationship, and they be like, "Where's your invisible boyfriend?" Like, you go to these events and you're just, you say you have a person, but they're like, "We never see this person." They're catfishing you, they're plotting, they're saying all these different things. You have to be confident in what you're building in relationship. Otherwise, you're going to be influenced by what they say, and it just breeds doubt and mistrust and just a whole mess. And lastly, I'll just say, if you don't have an agreement on timing, like, how long is this long distance relationship going to be? Like, if you desire to marry, for example, and you are ready or getting yourself ready, maybe you have an idea that maybe in a year of getting to know someone, you want to, make that move. If you're really set on being married, you should kind of know in the earlier stages if this is someone you want to get serious like that with. And then you all need to have that serious conversation and make the steps towards that goal. But if y'all not talking about that, if y'all not on the same agreement, the same timeline for marriage or a serious commitment, moving to each other's states or cities, if y'all don't have those conversations, or you feel like you're afraid to have those conversations, then it may not work out.
Yo, that's real. Yo, good stuff. Good stuff. And I want to come back to the question that you had posed earlier, Nicole, when you were talking about the differences between men and women and how they perceive or their level of commitment in a long distance relationship. So, CEO, do you feel like there's a difference when it comes to how men navigate long distance relationships versus the way women do?
I think it depends on the guy. If a guy is willing to spend his money to come visit someone, well, I'll just speak for myself. If I'm willing to spend my money or my airline miles or what have you to go visit someone, then that should be the tail indicator that I'm serious about whatever it is that we're trying to establish. And I'm not going to come visit somebody if I don't feel like it has the potential to become what I ultimately want it to become. So I do feel like it depends on the individual. Some guys, yeah, they might have somebody that's just an out of town fling, and might lie and say, hey, it's a business trip or things of that nature. But I really think it just depends on the individual, whether or not they want somebody that they can build something with long term, or if they just want somebody to have fun with that's in a different location.
That's good. That's good. Jason, what's your take? As a man, what do you think about the differences between how men and women perceive long distance relationships?
Oh, I think that I definitely think guys see it differently. I think women get more invested before guys do. However, I think a telltale sign, at least as Mr. CEO said, for me, would be going investing, the money to go see somebody, airline miles or what have you, is one side of the coin. And I know I would go and do that. When I got invested was when I let someone come into my space. So you would come to see me in my town. You would come to spend time with me at my house. Me jumping on a plane and going somewhere, that had become routine to me. So when Stephanie decided, she was going to come see me and start getting to know what my life was like in my town, and not just me going to see her all the time, then it was more of a reciprocal type relationship. But I will say this, as CEO said, once I start investing money into this relationship, then it does become more of a priority. But I don't feel like it's going to go or elevate to anything more, as far as like an exclusivity or even considering marriage, until you show me that same reciprocity. And so when she came to my space and started to interact with my girls and see what my day to day was like and what my neighborhood looked like and stuff like that, then that's when I was like, okay, this is definitely a long term thing.
Yo, I like that. I want to come over to you, Nicole. Kind of piggybacking off of something that Jason had mentioned is that reciprocity, right? How important do you feel like that is in a long distance relationship for both men and women?
Me, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
that I think that was the big thing because I felt like in my situation, I was so much more giving, so much more willing to visit, plan our visits. Like you said, the holidays. And it's interesting because the guys, because I have like coworkers that I talk to, and all the first question was like, okay, what did he get you for Valentine's Day? What did he get you for your birthday? And it was so interesting because as a female, or I don't know, just me personally, I'm just a giver. So I would never think to equate how much the guy likes you with what he's buying for you and, coming out the wallet. You know what I mean? But guys, men know men. And it was so true. Like for Valentine's Day, he didn't get me anything, but he was on the phone telling me, oh, he wants to get like a little something for the girls at his job. And I'm like, what? For my birthday, I made sure I got him. I actually went there for his birthday and everything. for my birthday, oh, they wouldn't give me time off from work. I couldn't come. I got you something, but I wanted to put it on you personally. So when I see you next time, then I'm going to, put it on you. So it's things like that. So it's true. When you see both people are trying, that's what really matters. And like you said, coming out the pocket, because we were talking, like I said, every night for hours. So for me, that was awesome. But again, in terms of trying to see each other and, buying gifts and making the person feel special, that was not reciprocated.
Yeah, and before I come to Tatiana, I do want to kind of go back to Jason and CEO to ask a question, because something that you have pointed out is, he wasn't giving you the gifts and things, but he was making that investment of being on the phone for hours. And usually that's one of the things that women are like, yo, they can't get the time investment. So, Jason, why do you think a guy would, not be taking it serious, but at the same time willing to invest so much time?
Oh, well, easy. I think that the investment of time as far as the conversation, that's an easy win. That keeps her close. That kept Nicole, his access to her. He kept that. But when it came to the financial investment, it was going to someone else, because when she pulled up, old girl, she had she had all that information, the receipts and all that stuff. So that's where the money was going. But he did what he had to do to keep his access to Nicole and to do the things he felt like he wanted to do. And from there, that's how he kept control of the situation until he didn't.
I appreciate you for sharing that. And CEO, anything you would add just from the male perspective of, like why some men navigate like that?
I mean, I agree because as much as women are smarter than men, and in most instances, when it comes to a long distance relationship, any man knows, okay, communication is going to be key. So if I can't see this woman, then I'm going to stay on the phone with her. I'm going to continue to engage with her as much as possible. I'll tell her about my day. I'll ask her about her day. I'll do all of these things on the telephone to give the illusion that I'm 100% invested in her, when I could actually have something else going on that she has no knowledge of at all. And the only thing that she has to go off of, because we can't spend time physically together, is the conversation and the communication that we have.
Nah, that's good. I just wanted to get the male's perspective on that with the ladies listening and who will be watching the replay, because it's important. There may be women out there wondering, like, why is he investing his time? But then there are certain things that's not adding up. So I appreciate you, Jason, and CEO, for adding that. Now, coming to you, Tatiana, what's your take on this navigating of long distance relationships, men versus women?
I was just thinking about how women often fall in love with what they hear. So oftentimes that communication piece does make a difference. And if the men they're talking to have the gift of gab and they can talk real good game, like they can get them for real, like the guys were saying on the panel, and keep them close. So I think that's when we start to get emotionally involved, and then we romanticize the idea of seeing this person or developing a relationship with this person that's so far away. And then we romanticize them coming to visit or visiting them. It turns into this whole Bridgerton, eloquent romance novel situation in our heads. And we just plan on the future, but it's just a different level, I think. So we definitely get caught up in that. So we have to be mindful to guard our hearts and our ear gates when we're in these situations.
Oh yeah, guard the gates always. That is so necessary.
Yeah,
And I do want to,
real quick.
yeah, Jason.
The one thing I said to my wife, and I say to any woman, is y'all intuition is a superpower. So as long when y'all follow it and y'all start putting these pieces together and y'all get into y'all FBI mode and stuff is not adding up and so on and so forth, and these puzzle pieces ain't puzzling,
right?
Y'all know what it is. But when y'all deviate from that, of course, that gives men the opportunity to start trying to piece together a lie to tell y'all what we feel like y'all need to hear to keep moving. But y'all intuition is a superpower. And there's not a guy that can win over the women's intuition. We just don't have the capability.
Amen. That's a good point. Thank you, Jason.
Now, actually, Stephanie, want to come over to you, because going off of something that Tatiana said, expectations, that I feel like that definitely plays a role when you get into a long distance relationship. How does a person, in women in particular, how do they manage their expectations so that they're not, pie in the sky, like thinking it's more than it is, and kind of keeping things relatively down to earth?
I kind of just go with the flow. It's like I'm on what you on,
Mhm.
I
Until you wasn't. You flipped that
until
script.
I wasn't. Yeah.
What's that story?
You flipped that.
So my thing is, I have to make sure that I feel that you're like fully into me. Like I'm never the one that's always like, oh God, he's mine. And then, because when you've been hurt before, you kind of looking out for those red flags and things like that. You know what I'm saying? And after a while, it's like, okay, you need to sit back and think like, why do I keep making the same mistakes that I've been making all this time? So you kind of watching out for that. So what did we say? What was the story for? So that's why I didn't put so many expectations on him, because I needed to know that this was the right one for me and for my children, because I didn't want to be disappointed again. So I'm like, I'm on what you on, until I wasn't.
So when it came down to it, panelists, I'd say probably, I don't know if it was, let's say like March or something, somewhere around the pandemic, but we were having a conversation, we'll say April. And we were having a conversation about just the relationship. And, of course, she was like, I'm on what you want. So I'm thinking, oh, man, we just flowing, whatever. And then she flipped it. She was like, okay, well, what you want to do with this? Because I'm not on what you want.
Because he said we were in a situationship. So I said, okay, if that's the case, then you don't mind if I date other people. Then it's like, oh, wait a minute. We didn't want that.
So I didn't think. So we talked about long distance relationships here. I told her I didn't think you would go for a long distance relationship. I didn't think you would. So I didn't want to set myself up to be like, all right, I'm going to start feeling this woman. And then she's going to be like, yeah, I don't date people who are not within my reach. And so therefore I was like, all right, if I keep her at a distance emotionally, then I won't be vested. So I started giving the answers that I thought was the right answers. Yeah, it's just a situationship. It is what it is and all that type of stuff. Until she flipped it like, oh, can I date other people? And it's like, no guy wants that. We can't handle that. Our ego, it cannot handle that. The male ego is so sensitive, and y'all know that. Y'all women know this. The male ego is way sensitive to any emotion y'all have. So when she called that out, I'm like, no, I don't want that. So as we decided to move forward in a more exclusive manner and more intentional manner, then that's when it went from I'm on what you on to, nah, this is something we're about to build on. And eventually, let's say that was April. We was married in November. So,
but that's a tip, ladies. You got to make sure you can. What we doing here?
And that's what I want to talk about, because I want to look at it both from Stephanie and Nicole's perspective, because it seems like not every woman has that. You know what? I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna tell it like it is. I'm gonna make sure that we are moving in the same direction, and if we not, I'm gonna act accordingly. So, what would you advise, Tiffany, to women out there who are struggling with, saying, "Hey, I'm not on what you want no more," and you kind of want to throw an ultimatum out there, or kind of let them know that you ready to change things up? What would you advise those ladies?
You have to do it because in the long run, you just setting yourself up for failure. You'll be one of the women who, you break up and a few months later he's married. It's like you were not the one. You knew you weren't the one at the time. You knew it in your heart of hearts. So cut your losses.
Okay, I hear that. And Nicole, what would you say to the ladies?
In your heart if someone is, really feeling you like that. And, you can't change people's mind. Either it's there or it's not. So
That's real. I appreciate you for sharing that, Stephanie. And Nicole, what would you say to women who struggle with, finding their voice in a relationship, to tell a man like, hey, this is what I want. I'm not on what you want no more.
I want to say that it's easier said than done, right? So for those who are just getting into it and their heart isn't in it and it's not invested, learn from this discussion, okay? Because you got to guard your heart, because by the time you give your heart to this guy, it's going to be hard to walk away. So for those who are thinking about, having a long distance relationship or just meeting a guy and you're not totally vested yet, beware, guard your heart, because it's hard to walk away after you already given your heart to this person. But for those, which it seems like a lot of people are in right now in this whole situationship, that they just find it hard to walk away from, you have to say within yourself if you really can stick to this. Because with this guy, I did this a couple of times, right? I was, you say, oh, I want this, I want that, and then you blow up, and then you come back a couple of days to it, like a week later or 2 weeks. So you want to make sure that when you do say it, you're ready, because he's not going to take you serious if you say, hey, I want this ultimatum, and then he doesn't do it and you still come back. So if you know that you're not strong enough to do it, I say wean yourself off of the person. If you guys talking 5 days a week, try to go down to 4, then try to go down to 3 until you feel strong enough, because I'm telling you, it is so hard to walk away when you have already invested yourself in this person. And again, you don't want to be taken for a fool and say something and then come back and you can't stand to your word. So, just be very mindful with that is what I would say.
So many golden nuggets. Y'all on fire tonight, and I'm loving it. CEO, I got to come up to you, man. So it sounds from what Nicole was sharing, what Stephanie was sharing, that one of the signs for women is, when they are, like their heart gets involved with a man. For men, I'm assuming it's different. So like, when does a man in a long distance relationship kind of know that, okay, like I'm serious, like I'm really ready to be on that type of seriousness that she's on?
When his time and his money are involved.
Mm.
And when he doesn't even see anybody else, like he can't see himself with anybody else, when he can't wait to talk to her first thing in the morning, the whole can't wait to talk to you last thing I hear at night, that whole cliche. Um, when, like I said, when he feels like this is the best thing that's ever happened to him, like this is the person that he was created to be with, or she was created to be with him. When he has that feeling to where, what, he starts to second guess some of the things that he does out of fear of risking terminating that relationship, then that's how you would know it goes without saying how he feels about that particular person, what they're building, and what they're trying to build at the same time.
All right. All right. Yes, Nicole.
I want to say something about that, because I feel that at first it might be infatuation. I feel like in my situation at first, both people were feeling like, oh, this might be the person for me. God, did you send this person? Like everything just aligns. And at first, sometimes people really do feel like this was a person created for me. And to me, it's not through until time passes by that you really and truly see, is this really something I'm really feeling for this person? So I think in addition to what CEO said, I think you got to let that time pass too to see if that feeling actually remains true.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
y'all know what they say about time. Yes, Jason.
It's the consistency, because we all know the representatives can get out there and do their thing for a month, 3 months, but you can only fake it for so long. And so that consistency, well, eventually you'll get to the point where your words and actions don't align, and therefore the consistency, you won't want to keep up the facade. So, but CEO nailed it. Well, once men, we start moving differently out of the fear of losing that person, and start noticing in situations and circumstances where we would move a certain way that was more selfish, and we are starting to think more about that woman and that relationship, and before we make moves, oh yeah, then you're like that's the one.
Yeah, I agree with you both. One of the things that women should definitely pay attention to is when men are afraid to lose you. Like that's huge. That's you. When he needs you to be a part of his life, that is a major sign that that man is seriously invested in you. And Tatiana, I want to come down to you. When we look at these expectations, what do you think women can do to manage them when they're in a long distance relationship? I know you talked earlier about guarding their hearts and, guarding their ears, from the men that got the gift of gab. But what are some other things that women can do to make sure that they aren't having expectations that are unrealistic?
Definitely have to make sure that you keep living your life. Like you can't hang everything up because you're in a relationship. You have to still fulfill your purpose in your single season. You still got to work. You still got other things that you've been doing before this person came along. You like don't arrange everything in your world for that one person, especially if you all are not committed like that in like something more serious like a marriage. So I think you have to just keep, having that life balance so you can keep a level head. That's what I would say.
Okay, okay. So coming back over to Jason and Stephanie, I know you guys have mentioned the TSA, but were there any other challenges that you guys had to navigate when you were trying to maintain and sustain your long distance relationship and marriage?
No.
I don't think of anything off top. I think you have moments and I guess we took a lot of things for granted with how effective our communication was. So in learning how to communicate, kind of the examples that Dr. What was it, Sakisha?
Yes. Yep. Dr. Sakisha.
Talking about with that conflict resolution and stuff like that. We did have times where there were frustrations that we had to let go. So I think that, but I do think with our relationship, the hardest part, as far as with a distance, was to me blended family. So blended family. Oh, blended family and choosing where to live. So
Yeah.
we there was a time where I wanted to stay in Dallas, and she was thinking about coming down there, but our support system would not have been what it is here in Chicago, where we have grandparents on both sides and all our friends that we came up with and all that type of stuff. So I had left and moved away for quite a few years, but now coming back was a much better situation for us as a whole. So that was something that we did go back and forth about a bit, but it wasn't any type of ultimatum. She was actually looking for jobs down there, because if that was something that I wanted to do, then she was at least looking to accommodate that.
I like that.
Every day.
Yes, Stephanie.
But I was going to do it.
She'd have been out there by herself though, so that would have been definitely an adjustment. And I didn't want that. I didn't want her to depend on me for everything down there by removing her from her comfort zone, because then everything would have been on me as far as before she started making friends at work and so on and so forth. And I didn't want that. I'd rather we just have a much more seamless integration into our married life, because we still needed to build a foundation. But like we knew each other that long before we hit the ground running.
I appreciate your transparency. Thank you guys so much for just sharing your experience. It means a lot. Coming up to you, CEO, in the long distance relationships that you've been in, what were some of the challenges that you've encountered?
Well, I guess I have a story like Nicole did. So, I went to visit a individual that lived in Wisconsin. And we started off talking on the phone all the time. Everything was great. And I should have known when I was at the airport and a young lady caught my eye that this entire trip was going to be disastrous. So I ended up seeing this young lady. She caught my attention. And I said to myself, dang, she's really cute. But you know what? I'm not going to go there. I'm going to leave it alone. And whatever. Get on the plane, looking for my seat, end up sitting right next to this lady. Have a whole conversation. So I say to myself, this could be a sign. Maybe it's not a sign. We have a whole conversation. She ends up going almost in the same direction that I did. And for one split second, I was like, you know what? I might go with her, but I can't snap back to reality. Got along with her kids, learned a lot about her on a 2.5-hour flight. So get to see the person that I'm supposed to see and build with, per se. And the first day, everything is fine. I'm up there for 2 weeks. And I'm thinking she took off work for these 2 weeks. That Monday rolls around, she's getting up, getting ready to go to work. I said, okay, so what am I supposed to do? And she was like, well, you can take me to work and then pick me back up later. I was like, I don't live here. I don't know where I'm going. There was no Google Maps at the time. She was like, well, I'll just show you how to get there and back. Okay, if I get lost, I don't know how you getting home. So first 3 days went by. I'm sitting at the house, this unclean house, trying to figure out what to do with my life. I get on the computer. I want to chat with some of my friends. First thing that pops up is this journal of hers talking about how she misses her girlfriend. Well, I never knew that she was into women. If I'd have known that, I'd have stayed at home. So go past that. Couple of days go by. I'm like, I'm tired of you being at work, and I'm sitting here watching all the judge shows, all the talk shows, things of that nature. I need something to do. I'm not going to Walmart because I was in a racist town. So, being from the South and being up north, Midwest, they do things a whole lot different. So she said, well, until I get off work, you can go sit at my sister's house. Well, I don't want to sit at your sister's house. Your sister is lonely. She's married and lonely. What do I look like sitting at your sister's house for 8 hours a day? So eventually it came time for me to leave. And by that time, we weren't even really speaking to each other. She was sleeping upstairs. I was sleeping downstairs. She said, you know what? I don't think this is going to work. I said, well, I know it's not. You can think what you want to. I know it's not going to work. I was like, there's stuff that you didn't tell me. You didn't tell me your hair wasn't really yours. I was like, one morning when you were trying to tell me to go check the weather, it took me about 15 minutes because I couldn't understand what you were saying. And then you said, wait a minute, let me put my teeth in. And that threw me for a totally different loop. So that was by far the worst experience I've ever had. I got back. I lost her number. I deleted her off of Black Planet or wherever website I found her from. And that was it. So from now on, I use discernment, tarot cards, call Cleo, whatever I can to get certainty before I make any type of move. That's what I do.
Oh man.
Shout out to Black Planet. Oh no.
Yo, CEO man, yo, you and your stories never disappoint. I knew we was gonna get a CEO story. I mean, Nicole, your story was hilarious. CEO, like once again, like I told you, my two storytellers right next to each other is
Y'all are
perfect.
great.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Who wants to follow that up? So, Tatiana, what have been some of the challenges that you face? I'm sure nothing close to what CEO just described.
No, I don't think I had any challenges. I think it's like depends on the person that you're in the relationship with. So as far as like long distance, well maybe with one, it was someone from another country, and so I had to really think about, and people ask me too, like, well, what if they have to be citizens, you as the American have to pay for them to become a citizen. I was like, I do what now? So I was like, do I really want to do this? But that was one of the few factors I had to consider with that person in moving forward or not. So I didn't have too much, but CEO, that story was crazy. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. And you didn't get to see you didn't get the other lady's number from the airport or anything?
I should have. I'd probably still be in Wisconsin right now if I did.
Oh man.
Oh man, you got to get those digits, CEO. Next time, next time. So, Nicole, I know you gave us an amazing story, but just for the sake of being fair, like, is there any other challenges or anything else that you've encountered that you want to share about navigating long distance relationships?
Man. No, I don't think I have anything else, but I do have a question. It appears from what I've heard from other people as well that it seems like women oftentimes fall quicker than men do. And we were talking about guarding your heart, right? So my question is, do you think a good strategy for women would be to not really invest your heart until the guy is first investing his. That's a safe way to do it. Should we wait until the guy is really showing that he is truly invested before we give everything?
Great question, Jason. What's your take?
You gonna answer that?
Mm-mm.
I think
You're like, nah, that was directed to the men.
yeah, and I think there's ways you can do that. If a guy, okay, so if guys are competitive, then if there's a lot of times where I hear women here is for women to not to continue to date them all, sis, until he steps up. So if a guy usually doesn't want to feel like he's in that much competition, so guys will step up, if they feel, if you don't give them exclusivity that they haven't earned. But more often than not, women will do that. Guys will date multiple women, and that woman will be dating just that one guy. That's been the norm, the societal norm. So, and that because women are more emotionally connected, they'll connect faster based on the potential of the guy. We hear there's less good men out here, so women are try and grab a guy before someone else gets to him and all that type of stuff. So if y'all were continually to date and a guy felt that there was competition, like in the wild, they're going to step up and pull you to I won't say ownership, but like pull you to say, this is my woman, and stuff like that. But unfortunately, more often than not, because women's hearts tend to fall faster, y'all get more emotionally connected. We key in on that, and then we know we still can do what we want to do because y'all appear to not be going anywhere.
Mm.
Yeah, and until CEO comes back, I'll chime in here. I think that what Jason said is on point, and it's really delicate. It's a delicate dance, really, because what I would say is every situation is a little bit different. But I think a good rule of thumb is for women to try their best to not give their heart over to that man before he's really shown you that he doesn't want you to leave his life. And it can be difficult to determine that. But to Jason's point, one of the ways to determine that is for you to let it be known that he is not the only guy that you're entertaining. And that could be, depending on the man, that could be
That's
a good thing and a bad thing. Yeah, it's tough because if he really feeling you and he's like, oh, well, she not taking this thing serious, then he may, go off and do his thing. Or you may have a guy where, like he will get in line, but then he's not really serious about you. And that's the challenge is like some guys, if they're really playing the game, they know how to play the game to make you feel like, they're connected, they're attached. And to Jason's point, once they realize that, okay, I got her, she's invested again, they'll just start to, let up off the gas, and it's just kind of like this back and forth. So what I would say, and this goes in any situation, look for patterns, right? If you are given little parts of yourself to this man, how does he respond to it? Does he take advantage of it? Let me use your example, Nicole, where you said you're a natural giver, right? Where if you're giving a man something and the amount of appreciation that he's showing is like not there, that's a red flag right there, is the fact that he doesn't appreciate the gifts that you're giving him. But let's say that you were giving him gifts initially and he was like really, really appreciative, and you continue to give him gifts. And usually, and this is just my experience, most times women who are givers, they elevate their gifts. It's like they're outdoing themselves. So like, if that's the case, if your gifts are becoming more grand, but now his appreciation is just waning, and it's just like, hold on, like, yo, you was way more excited when, I took you to, your favorite spot or something versus now, like I just flew you out here and, like I got you some Jordans or something. And he like, oh, thanks. Yo, I appreciate the ticket. Like, yeah, those kicks is cool. That is a sign right there where it's like, hold on, where's all that appreciation? You were super excited when, I took you to your favorite restaurant and picked up the tab. So I would just say, look for those patterns where behavior was one way and now it's flipped in a completely different way. So that's the one thing that I would add. But I would say try your best not to give all of your heart to a man, especially a man that hasn't shown you that he wants you to be his wife. That's just my thing is like, until you're like, yo, and this man is like, I want to be with you for life, then you can start to give him more of yourself. But I would say keep something to yourself. That's what I would say. Nah, something you wanted to add, Nicole?
I was saying amen. Like I have so much ad lib I want
Oh.
to say, but my mic was off. Amen. Amen. Amen.
Yes. So, CEO, what's your take, man? She wanted to know about that male perspective. You know, how do you know when a man is really committed, and how can a woman keep from giving all of herself?
Well, I'll say in the beginning, what she can do is don't assume that you're the only person that he's talking to. Matter of fact, ask, do you have anybody else that you're talking to? Do you have a special friend? Things of that nature. And if you've met somebody or you're talking to somebody, be just as honest with him as you want him to be with you. And so at least that way you know, okay, there's the potential for somebody else that he's talking to. You know that up front. So you don't go in thinking, okay, well, you know what, he has tunnel vision just for me. So you can kind of tailor your expectations back some until he tells you, hey, you know that person I told you that I was interested in when we first met? Oh, well, I cut that off. Oh, that doesn't exist anymore. Or things of that nature. Like all of my attention is on you. And if he doesn't bring that up, don't be afraid to ask. So what happened to so and so? What happened to this person that you were talking to when we first met? Do you still talk to them? Do you hear from them every now and then? Are y'all still Facebook friends? You know, things of that nature. When you get the answer to that question as to where, like I said, he's like, oh, I cut that off. I'm only wanting to focus on you. I'm not trying to talk to her and compare the two of y'all and jeopardize things and things of that nature. Then you can move a lot more accordingly afterwards. But like I said, initially, a lot of women just feel like they're the only person that a guy is talking to. Like he just woke up out of a slumber, stumbled across your path, and it's just you and nobody else. When that's not the case.
But CEO, these men, some of these men, you're saying that because you're honest men. But a lot of men out here are not going to tell you that they're talking to other women. Because especially if they really like you and they want a chance with you, they're not going to sit up there and say, yeah, I got 3 or 4 others. When we're done on the phone, I'm going to hit up Keisha. Like, they are not going to say that. And there are some guys who are players that will say, yeah, I got friends. That's like, I got friends. But I mean, CEO, that's because you honest. Like a lot of these dudes out here, they are not telling the truth.
Okay, well, in a situation where you do have a dude that says, yeah, I have friends, even if you don't have friends, you know what? Disrupt his ego. Okay, well, I have friends too. You may not have friends. Your friend might be a teddy bear or a dog, but he doesn't know that. He doesn't need to know that. He doesn't need to know that you don't really have friends.
Play the game on his level. Play the game on his level. CEO
So
right.
if he comes
Chestnut
across
checkers,
and
right?
says that he has friends, you know what? Sometimes don't answer his phone call.
Oh.
Give the indication that, you know what? I'm with my friend. Hey, you might be sitting at home fighting the urge to answer the phone call. He doesn't know that. So when he comes to you and says, hey, I tried calling you, what happened? Oh, I was out with one of my friends. Now he's going to start to feel a certain type of way and be like, okay, well, she got friends, but I'm really interested in her. You know what? I need to do some things to make this official, to cause you to stop dealing with your quote unquote friends and for him to kick his friends off to the side.
See, you can't play games like that because when he stops answering your phone calls and stuff like that, then that's when that's when the fight gonna break out.
You gonna pull up like Nicole did.
That's why I said that you have to date with the mindset of I'm on what you're on, because you can't throw all of yourself into a relationship. So I kind of was dating 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Like, of course, like you said, Nicole, I would have had to wean myself off of him. However, in the same token, I would have been okay. Just like, okay, you know what? This wasn't for me. I'm done with you. I did try to break up with him at least 2 times, maybe 3 times before. And of course he came back because he's married now. But yeah, you just have to, protect your own self. Like we were already saying, you can't just throw yourself all the way in there and then your world is shattered when it falls apart.
But as CEO was saying, she did call me out when I was inconsistent. So when I was inconsistent and she told me she was done with me for those days, then I had to, my consistency had to match my words and my actions and all that stuff. So I had to get back consistent. But when she told me she was done with me, she wasn't calling. So as CEO was saying, when I would call, she would answer sometimes. I think it was a couple of them you didn't answer. So I had to step up. So and she made it so that I had to step up because I was acting inconsistent at times. That's in the past though.
But you got to throw it all away. Like, you know what? No, I come first. So.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. So let me quickly give some shout outs, man. We had some people joining us. So Katiwe, what is going on? So glad you could join us tonight. Katiwe says, true, dating multiple people helps, but there's always one you like more than the other. That right there is real talk. But she says it keeps your thoughts balanced. That it does, because you bouncing around thinking about the different people. My girl Tiffany says, sound advice to not be exclusive until the man commits. And then JD Clay is co-signing what Katiwe said. And then we got my girl Princess in the building. Thank you for joining us. She says, you are single and free to do whatever you want until you agree to exclusivity. Just be transparent so there's no confusion. That right there is real talk. Let me see. I think we have.
Hey, Princess. That's one of my old classmates.
Oh, what's up, Princess? We appreciate you for joining us. Thank you so much for tuning in. My girl Krista is in the building as well. She says, I think guys make it known subliminally that they're talking to other people. And she also says, we just have to read between the lines. And then Tiffany has one more comment here. She says, as women, we have to know our value as men value themselves. Yeah. Everybody got to value themselves. And I think one thing before I come over to my girl Tatiana, what CEO mentioned and what you had also alluded to, Nicole, is there are some people that play games. I think one of the first things that we have to do is be able to sift those people out. Like those are the people that we do not want to go far, especially if you're serious, right? So once you identify that that voice that you made, Nicole, like that, I got friends, like when you hear the little pimp voice come out, like that's when you just like, okay, like I got to say him to the side. That probably was a red flag automatically right there. So anytime you get that inclination, and I think it was Tiffany was pointing it out, Nicole, like rely on that intuition that Jason was talking about. Your woman's intuition, do not ignore it. I feel like most times when women ignore their intuition, it leads them down a bad path. So if your intuition is giving you that vibe that this dude, he on some other type of time, he may not be honest, he may not be serious, then that is when I would say you pivot. When you find yourself playing all of these games, that is a red flag to me, or indication that you're not really in a seriously committed relationship. Because when you're seriously committed to somebody, you ain't got to play all these games, right? I feel like the only time you should be, playing chess is with yourself. Like if like, hold on, man, I'm giving too much of myself from this guy. It has really nothing to do with him, but it's like, I'm putting myself at jeopardy, like we just talked about earlier, right? If you realize that you're doing too much, I'm giving too much, he's not reciprocating, that's when you adjust your own behavior. It's not because you're playing a game. It's not because you're trying to manipulate him. It's not because, I'm not going to call him just because, I want to make him feel like I'm not there. Like, nah, like you're not answering his call because you working, you about your business. Like Tatiana said, in those instances, it just is you're living your life. So that's what I would say is, if you got to play games, it's not a serious relationship. If you're about those games, then by all means, have fun. But if you're serious, sift those people out immediately and don't waste your time. That would be my 2 cents on that. Coming over to you, Tatiana, what's your take?
Yeah, I agree with what you were saying, Jay. Basically, I would say it's like not to become the pursuer in the relationship. It's like we have to really understand our roles as women, because this podcast, this show is for women who want to be married, who want to have successful relationships. It's like, ladies, this is a reminder to not switch. If they're not pursuing you the way you deserve to be pursued, call them out. Like you all said, that accountability piece is important, but don't like try to up it up a notch and be like, okay, well, let me show him, how much that, I want to be with him and stuff like that. That's pursuing the man, and then it turns into chasing and try to force something. and you're acting out of desperation, and those are things that can turn off people because they can sense that too, right? So you just have to like stay in your lane, and if they're not, going in the same direction as you, you just have to see it for what it is and move on.
Yeah, and going back to something that Stephanie had mentioned earlier about being able to identify when a man is really into you, like that's completely different when it comes to a woman like that's just desperate. Where in your mind you think that because you're so into him that he's into you. Like, nah, you really got to be able to step back and be like, is he really into me? Or is this me being into him so much that I'm extrapolating the small things he do and making it seem like it's just so super major. So like it's important
Been
to be
there.
able to distinguish that. No, what was that?
Now I'm saying I've been there, so totally understand. Yep.
Real talk, real talk. So I want to come over to my man CEO, man. Let's get down to our last question for tonight. What would you say are some of the benefits of long distance relationships, when they're able to work?
Um, Communication. Um, Not having the physical aspect gives you the opportunity to have a more solid foundation because you don't have the sex clouding your judgment. You can get to know a person a whole lot better. You can just listen to their day. You can look forward to talking to them, things of that nature. Like when you're local, you have a greater opportunity to just bypass all of that and just if the physical is all you want, then that's what that's what you get, and then you end up finding out that's what the relationship has been built off of. So for me, long distance, it's the communication. It's genuinely hope. You hope it's genuinely you getting to know somebody, and seeing what they're about, learning, you know, their the good, the bad, the in between, and trying to decide if this is something that you want going forward.
All right. And Nicole, what would you say are some of the benefits of long distance relationships?
At first, I was going to say absolutely nothing, but CEO is so right that that was one thing that I did notice was that um, I was so happy that sex was not on the table in the equation at first. So I was really able to, really have deep, deep, deep conversations and really get to know the person without, sex clouding my judgment. So I'm gonna just ride with CEO on that one.
That is fair. That is fair. And coming down to Jason and Stephanie, you guys being able to make it work, what would you guys say are the benefits of long distance relationships?
That's
The
fair.
communication. That's it.
Oh yeah. Communication. I mean, that kind of was the foundation for everything. So then from the communication, we developed a friendship. That friendship, what we call the connection. That different levels, different layers that we were getting to know each other. Basically, just developing a deep friendship, deep connection. But that also removed our biases because we both said it to each other. We're like, you're not the typical person we've dated before. Like we realized that what we were the patterns we had before hadn't gotten the results that we had wanted. So now you're taking this time to develop this friendship with someone and get to know them and all those things that CEO was saying, and now realizing that, oh, this is what I like. That reciprocity and sacrifice is also a thing with the long distance because you have to put in so much more work. Like you have to make yourself available. I had set up the schedule where I was like, I need to see you because there's things I want from you, and there's the ways we need to build that have to happen in person. So I made the commitment that I'm going to be on the plane every Sunday, week in, week out, no matter what it takes, because I'm investing into this. So those type of things. And then I needed to see her say, okay, I'm also going to come see you as well. Not me saying, having to force that, but her saying, this is my part that I'm going to do to help build this foundation that we're building together, and not you putting it all together. And then I'll just come and put one block in, stuff like that. No. I want to see us build this together. So that type of stuff is what made, that would only happen to me. I would have only been able to see in long distance because I had a lot of biases about relationships.
All right, that's good. That's good. And what would you say, Tatiana? Or no, Stephanie, anything that you wanted to add about the benefits, or you just want to co-sign what Jason was
No,
saying?
I'm just co-signing with him. Yeah, like just as I said before, just communication. And then we were in a pandemic, so nobody could travel anywhere for those few months. So we couldn't do anything but talk. And we talk about everything, like nothing, absolutely nothing is off the table for us to talk about. Because when you're, of course, long distance and you can't see each other physically or whatever the case, then you got to keep that communication train going. So I think that really helped us as well. I've never talked to anybody as much as I talked to him on the phone, like hours, 8, 9 hours. That's a long time. So that really brought us together too. Right.
I love that.
Stephanie and Jason, I got a question I wanted to ask. So I know that when you all weren't in the same place, communication was huge.
Mm-hmm.
When you all finally did meet face to face, for either one of you, was there ever even an inkling that of fear that you hope that you all click in person the same way that y'all were clicking over the phone? Because for a lot of people, they mesh really well when they're in 2 different locations, but then when they get in the same space, things go sideways. So was that ever a thought, a fear, a wonder of either one of you?
It wasn't for me. I don't think that really came about until we actually got the house and we moved in together. So we're like, ooh.
Yeah, I think the fear was alleviated because we would see each other in spurts. So if there was ever any type of thing that you see something like, I don't know if this is working, then I knew in a few days I'd be gone.
Yeah.
So, but it seemed like everything was coming together. But the things that we did have issues with, I know when I got back to Dallas, I could be like, let's talk about this. And because we had good communication skills over the phone. So I went back to that comfort zone of where we communicated best. But when we were in person, once you get after the physical, then a lot of things did fall into place. So we had much more issues when we moved together and realized people's quirks and habits.
Mm-hmm.
That type of stuff was more of a learning curve.
And CEO, it wasn't quirks and habits like a nasty house. Let's put that on the table right now.
Oh, yeah, because you threw that out there. Yeah,
okay.
No, sir.
Yo, y'all too funny.
I don't even consider that a quirk. I consider that just a lifestyle.
Yeah.
But no, just to coexist together without that 4-day part.
Yeah,
but,
right. Because we was 10 on, 4 off.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were good.
Nah, good question, CEO. Really great question. Tatiana, what would you say are some of the benefits of long distance relationships?
Yeah, I would say some of the benefits. I don't know. Maybe you guys, maybe it's just me, but in a long distance relationship, I think you would make the most out of the ordinary things that you do in life because now you get to do them with this person that you're with. Like, oh, I get to go. I get to go to Walmart. Now I get to go to Walmart with my person. I don't know, maybe because I'm a quality time and I don't mind. And that's cute to me. Those little things. And sometimes doing all that, now that you have them in the same space when you all get to meet each other or spend time together, it takes a little longer to get complacent versus perhaps taking advantage of that person's presence if you were in a short distance relationship. I'm just wondering, I'm putting it out there, but that's my little my little point. I think it can help build your problem solving skills because if something comes up and you guys are not in the same space, maybe there's a conflict with the schedule. This is something that you'll have to work through. Like, okay, well, how are we going to solve this problem? How are we going to make a compromise, et cetera, et cetera. And in travel, I always say this to people, like travel definitely shows a different side of everybody involved. You may learn something about yourself. You may learn something about the other person. So either if they're traveling to where you are or we're going to where they are, or you're meeting somewhere in the middle, eventually you're going to find out how they are when they are on a plane, when they have to go driving with you long distances, et cetera, et cetera. I always say that if you're in a dating situation, do some form of traveling with that person, but get to see how they really are outside of their hometown. But yeah, I think those are a few benefits of a long distance relationship.
I appreciate that. And we are right on the cusp of 9 o'clock. So it is time to wrap up. I want to first give the floor over to Nicole. Definitely let everybody know how they can get in contact with you. If there's any last or closing words that you like to share, by all means, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much, Jay. I had a good time. Thank you for inviting me. And nice to meet everybody. I did want to say, yeah, so you can find my podcast. It's My Comfy Couch, but you got to put dating after it to find me on YouTube, okay? My Comfy Couch Dating. And my IG is Comfy Couch Talks. Comfy Couch Talks, okay? So y'all check it out. And if you're interested in being on the show, let me know, okay? You on the panel too, okay?
Most definitely, yes. You guys show Nicole some love and support. I dropped the link to her YouTube channel in the chat. It's also in the description. So definitely show her some love and support. Jason and Stephanie, definitely share your last closing words before we wrap up tonight.
Communication is key. Pay attention to, as we said, patterns and reciprocity. When you start to see someone matching your energy, take advantage of that. When you see it not happening, don't hope. Be very intentional in watching and putting things together and making things happen. And so with that stated, you want to follow me, I'm at Jason Caston on all platforms. You want to give your social media?
Oh,
Nope. All right. Nope. Don't follow her. Just me. And so that's that. Appreciate being on the show once again.
Yo, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us as well, Stephanie. Definitely appreciated it. And CEO, definitely let the people know how they can get in contact with you. Any last or closing words you would like to share?
Mr. CEO status on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram. I definitely appreciate these 2 hours sitting here with all of these panelists, learning and exchanging thoughts and ideas. Only piece of advice I would give is don't lose yourself in someone that's not actively trying to find you.
That's good. That's good, CEO. And Tatiana, last closing words to lead us out.
Long distance relationships are what you make it, just like other relationships. It just requires a little more effort and patience, but it's possible, especially in this. We learned a lot in this pandemic, right? I think most people who were actively dating in 2020 up to now have experienced some form of long distance dating because at some point we all can be in the same space. So if that's something you feel like you could probably give it a try one more time, why not? Ask the right questions, get to know that person, have a plan in place, and be open to the possibilities.
Oh, yeah. Thank you all so much for joining us, Nicole. So glad to have you on the show for the first time. And Jason, happy to have you come back on. Stephanie, thank you for joining us on the show for the first time. And CEO, thank you, man, for making a returning appearance. And Tatiana, so glad to have you back. You guys will be back next Tuesday, same time. It'll be a men chat. You don't want to miss it. Until then, my guests, stay where you are, but we'll close it out and I'll catch everybody else next Tuesday. Until then, you guys stay blessed.